enter the Borella town, Colombo 8. Actually, the Borella town is a major traffic congested area because when someone travels from baseline road, well, each way there are two lanes, so both ways there are four lanes. Baseline road to Senanayaka Junction, and then from Maradana towards Dr. N.M. Pereira Mawatha, former Kota Road. Also, there are both ways altogether. There are four lanes, and then from Ward Place, there's a one-way path. Then again there's a these all these roads and in the Botry, near the Botry junction in Borella, the Dr. N.M. Pereira Mawatha Kota Road splits into two, like a Y junction, where one side is reserved for the Sri Lanka Transport Board the depot, Borella depot, and passenger depot terminals, and the other side towards the Borella public Colombo Municipality Council run unhygienic supermarket, so-called supermarket site. So this Borella town, earlier, several decades back, there were so many accidents and so many people died here. And one day I remember one young girl died while a school girl trying to cross the road. And after that I indicated to the government to consider having an underground crossing thing for system for Borella Junction, and accordingly the government did that, and today there aren't a single accident of pedestrians in the Borella Junction. Because of that underground, crossing system they have with the shopping shops. But on the other hand, now the traffic congestion is so much. Always someone has to wait a while to cross the Borella Junction in any side. If you cross the Borella Junction from anywhere to whatever the side, its time is utter waste especially during the traffic hours. And also we have seen the Borella, the Colombo Municipality Council run 6 or 5 storied the so-called supermarket. It's not a supermarket, it's actually a very pathetic, unhygienic location. Earlier there was a fish market here when I was a school child, around up to about grade 6. I remember it's very smelling with the fish and the meat at that location. But later, that was made to the present situation of about 5 to 6 storied like so-called supermarket. But that also not maintained by the Colombo Municipality Council. It's a very like an ISO. And one day I remember when I was in grade 6 or 7 at DSNI College, one rainy day I was crossing the road from the DSNI Kamawat in Borella towards the Botry from the side of the current Ritz Cinema at that time, where the current DFCC Vardhana Bank is located. At that time, I was waiting on the road during the rain without an umbrella to cross the road, and nobody stopped the vehicle. But all of a sudden, I noted some like a Toyota, I can't remember the vehicle name. This person stopped the vehicle. So then I immediately look at, because it was extraordinary to note, because nobody stopped the vehicle even though I was in a hurry to cross the road. But then I noted the driver. Who is this driver? I just had a look because I was very surprised when I saw one vehicle just stopping on the way for me to cross in those days especially. Now of course vehicles are more disciplined and they allow the pedestrian to cross. But those days it's not the case. So immediately I noticed the driver was none other than Arjuna Ranatunga, the Sri Lanka's the World Cup winning cricket captain. At that time he was I think just a player. So then still I did not cross because I was scared because even though he stopped the car, I did not cross. So at that point Arjuna showed me the way, waving his palm and asked me to cross. Then I crossed, and I still remember that. And he became the Sri Lanka's first World Cup cricket winning captain later because of the respect that I had for him. And also I remember the British Ceylon Corporation building next to the Dasa shopping complex, which is about 10 to 12 stories, but it's empty next to that. The British Ceylon Corporation, BCC, it was burnt down in 1983 Black July riots. When I was walking to the school through the Borella Junction, I saw the whole British Ceylon, corporation, that building was in fire. And I think later it was demolished, and there was now the a statue there, and next to behind the statue there's Dasa Supreme shopping complex operated by after 1977 the Dasa, the entrepreneur. But the shopping complex was hurriedly built, and it remained empty for several decades until I said that something must be done now. Of course, it looks nice, but it's still not used properly. I think the government must look into this, building, and as to whether to demolish it and make it a high rise, or as to how to handle it. And opposite that, there's another building complex, half constructed and stopped one by one. Recently emerged one of the real estate developers who actually went on a very fast mission to develop estate, and claiming that they have property development projects even in Australia. I don't remember this name of this company, but later, they over expanded and at a very high rate, and then they collapsed, and ultimately this building also opposite, I think the Dasa building complex is now halfway done, and it just remains idling there. And also we can see in the Borella Diyasaranayaka junction towards my school, near the cemetery, the former location of the HPT Finance, that building, which is occupied by the Maruti, occupied by the MW now, and also the Janashakti, insurance, former HPT Finance, which became bankrupt. Those buildings also became, completely ruined. I think when we look at this situation in Borella, and also my school just opposite the Borella cemetery, had been a volatile place with adjoining temple. There were so many disturbances between the temple and the school, and temple land being acquired by the school, and the temple Buddhist monks coming and destroying the classrooms, and once again the school building the walls, and again they are destroying again the school building, and ultimately it ended up like that, and finally the school got the land. But still, when you look at the Borella junction and this up to cemetery, and also the cemetery, the vast Sri Lanka's largest cemetery, the Borella cemetery, which is run by the Colombo Municipality Council, is an utter waste of land. Similar to the Arlington National Cemetery in USA, dedicated to those people who sacrificed their lives for the US in conflict. I think the Borella cemetery here, must be removed, because Borella cemetery being there, you can see the school. There were turmoil at the Diyasaranayaka's College, and there were turmoil near the HPT building. Later Janashakti came. All this became bankrupt, and also the Maruti. Currently Maruti showroom, AMW, they also had problems at the, these all buildings, and also the British Ceylon Corporation building, Dasa the showroom, opposite that the other building that I said halfway done by the Sri Lankan real estate property developer and stopped. So, and beside the Borella junction, a huge traffic, problem. This requires urgent urban planning for Borella. Because best thing is to remove the Borella cemetery from here, and have some plan for this cemetery, which is a huge land in Colombo, 7 and 8 areas. So because it's a very valuable piece of land, and just having a cemetery is not the best thing. Cemetery must be accommodated in a suitable, honorable way, as not as Borella cemetery, but one cemetery for national cemetery of Sri Lanka, for those who dedicate their died for the country during good times, during conflict times, and especially others, the municipality councils, the urban municipal councils, and the Pajisya Sabhas can have their own local cemeteries, but there has to be a national cemetery of Sri Lanka somewhere. So first of all, I think the Borella cemetery must be removed from here, and that particular land, and how to do this, because it's a very sensitive issue, since there are burial grounds for Muslims, and Roman Catholics and Anglican Christians, and I think also there is the Buddhist cremation site, Hindu cremation site. I think the Muslim burials are not there, but the Roman Catholic and the Anglican Christian burial grounds are there. So how to do this is a bit of a question mark, because it's a very sensitive issue. But still, this land, I have seen during my school career, the Buddhist monks when I go to school early morning, I have seen the Buddhist monks, leaving the cemetery, because they come into the cemetery night around midnight, and they go to the burial locations, and they sit on the those buried places, and they meditate at the night. And early morning I see them leaving the cemetery. So I think this is not the best place to have a cemetery. And since there are schools around, Devi Balika Vidyalaya, Nayak College, and there are so many schools around this cemetery. So I think also the British Overseas School is next to the cemetery. When from the British Overseas School classrooms, you can see the cemetery and the crematorium burning. And I don't think it's the best place, because there are of the schools around this location for children to educate. Get education. So I think the Borella cemetery must be removed, and what to do to the land is a big question mark, because no people will be like to have their shopping or residences or condominiums on a location of a cemetery. But still, I think probably maybe it's like some dedicated sports stadium, or some like athletic ground, probably artificial track, because of the so many schools around it. So currently the artificial Mondo turf is only at the Sukhdasa Stadium, which is in Colombo 12, and other one which President Mahinda Rajapaksa built after I highlighted that Sri Lanka has only one Mondo artificial athletic track at Sukhdasa Stadium. President Mahinda built one at Homagama near Casbah. So I think the Borella cemetery, instead of the cemetery, there must be a artificial athletic track place, to support school children from my school and all other schools. So many schools around this cemetery to pursue a career in athletics and perhaps other sports also, if the space allows them to build other sports complexes there. And it's not to dishonor the dead, but to honor them in a better way by making use the land where they are buried for the best way for the future of our country, the children's future. I think that way those who are buried will also cherish one day that where they have been buried, a beautiful athletic stadium had been built for the betterment of children's sports, for the betterment of the country's future prospects for Olympic medal.